because I showed up here in the middle of a pandemic, I actually haven't seen some of your faces. And I've had the funny experience a few times of going outside in the fresh air where it's safe and someone takes their mask off, and I say, oh, I didn't think you looked like that. Now, it's not a bad thing. You all have beautiful faces. It's just, I didn't think you looked like that. I had imagined something different in my mind. Well, in the psalm today on this first Sunday of Advent, we pray, Lord, make us turn to you. Let us see your face, and we shall be saved. We've only gone 9 months without seeing each other's faces, but the people who were praying that psalm had to go hundreds and hundreds of years praying, God, let us see your face, and they never got to see it. The closest anyone in the Old Testament came to seeing God's face was Moses, who went up Mount Sinai to receive the 10 Commandments. Let me see your glory, Moses said. No, God answered. No one can see the face of God and live, but I'll let you see my back. Now, I don't know what it means to see God's back, if that's the back of his head or his back, or Michelangelo in the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel infamously interpreted it as a sight of God's whole bare backside, which is a funny sight to see up there in the ceiling of a church. But whatever it was, it so changed Moses that when he came down the mountain, he was completely changed. His face was dazzlingly white. And the people had to say, Moses, we didn't think you looked like that. Put a face covering on. I know it's not a pandemic, but put a mask on. And Moses had to go around covering his face because even the indirect glimpse, the indirect reflection of God's glory from God's back to Moses' face was so profound and so bright that people had to turn away. God's face is a glorious sight, and no one in the Old Testament really got to see it. I think it's almost a universal human experience that we call on God to show his face so often, and yet so much of God remains hidden from our sight. So much of his plan remains hidden from our sight. One of my favorite authors is the great Christian convert C.S. Lewis, who wrote many great works of fiction like the Chronicles of Narnia, many great works of Christian apologetics like Mere Christianity. But my favorite book of his, and actually he considered it his best work as well, was the last novel he ever wrote. It's called Till We Have Faces. And it's a retelling of the ancient myths of the gods. And the narrator of this story is a queen who has suffered tremendous injustice in her life, tremendous suffering, all these problems. And she is always calling out to the gods to help her, and they never appear. And so she grows angry. She grows rebellious against the gods. And in protest, she begins to go around life covering her face. She wears a veil. And it's a protest against the gods who never seem to show their faiths when you need them. And isn't that our experience of the true God so much? That we call upon him, we say, God, appear, show your face. Where are you? Why do you allow a pandemic to rage unchecked? Why do you allow your little ones to suffer? Why do you allow such injustice in our world? Show your face and we shall be saved. And yet God sometimes doesn't seem to show up. Well, in the story of C.S. Lewis, this queen has the same complaint, and until she realizes, she has a moment of realization later on in the story where she begins to realize that so much of the problems and injustices that she had experienced, that she was angry about, were actually of her own making. She hadn't realized that she had grown so bitter and angry that she had begun to be the cause of much of the problems in her kingdom. And when she comes to this realization, she's able to see herself as she is for the very first time, like you would see yourself in a mirror. And it's a vision that's ugly. I didn't think I looked so ugly. I didn't realize the effect I was having on other people. I didn't realize what I looked like. And when she has this realization, she's actually able to begin to see that all that suffering she experienced in her life was actually a profound mercy from the gods. Because it was exactly what had led her to this moment of self-realization and a change of heart. And so she unveils her face for the first time. And the title of the book comes from a line that says, how can the gods show us their face till we have faces? You see, until we're able to recognize ourselves for who we truly are with all the good and bad that's in us, Until we're able to recognize the face of others and see, okay, this is the effect I'm having on other people, how can we hope to see the face of God? God's face is so beautiful, but we see it so often in the faces of others around us, made in the image and likeness of God. The question in our parish this month is, where do we find community? And that might seem like a highly ironical question in the midst of a pandemic where we are told to cover our faces and don't come to church if you're at risk, and you can have community but just stay 6 feet apart from each other. And maybe we're angry at what this pandemic has done to our community. Maybe we're upset at all this injustice that we see in the world. Maybe we are longing for the day when we'll be able to see our faces once again. But, the reason we do all this is exactly for community. I don't think anyone wears a mask for fun. We wear it because we recognize other people have needs. Other people have health conditions that put them at risk. Other people work in the medical field and need to be very careful right now. Some people have elderly relatives at home. That's why we're doing everything we're doing. So we're able to recognize the needs of others in community. Later this month, we're going to have another opportunity to do that when we celebrate our Christmas Masses. And because of all the restrictions, we're not able to have Christmas Masses in quite the same way that we're used to. We're not able to accommodate all the people who would normally want to come, and even with less people expected, it's still going to be a challenge. And so we're going to be adding extra Mass times at Christmas, but we're also going to be requiring advance tickets to come to Mass. Now, they're free tickets, but you have to reserve them in advance. And again, we can look at all this as another suffering in 2020, another attack on our community, another reason to rebel against the gods, but it's really another opportunity for community. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure everyone who wants to go to Christmas Mass can go. We're going to add as many extra Mass times as needed, but it just may not be at the time that we're used to or the time that's most convenient. We're going to have to think of the whole community as best we can. But there's a tremendous opportunity in all of that to grow together in love and charity, to grow together in our recognition of the needs of others. I think of the last line of Les Miserables, to love another person is to see the face of God. It's only when we recognize the love that we have for each other that we're able to get this glimpse of God's glory among us. After all, let's not forget what we are celebrating at Christmas. It's the answer to that prayer. It's an answer to that psalm that was prayed for hundreds of years. Everyone prayed, "Let us see your face, Lord," and nobody saw his face, not even Moses, until Mary and Joseph and the shepherds looked down into that manger in Bethlehem. And that little infant face looking up at them, that little cute little face was actually the face of God unveiled for the very first time. Who would have ever thought that God would look like that? This Advent season is a time for us to enter into the spirit of those people in the Old Testament who longed for the coming of a Savior. It's the opportunity to enter into the spirit of Mary and Joseph, who waited 9 months to see the face of their firstborn son. And yes, there's going to be challenges. Yes, there's going to be difficulties this winter to get through. But there is light at the end of the tunnel with all of this as well. And we are looking forward to that day in joyful hope where we're going to be able to see God face to face, no longer dimly as in a mirror, but face to face. We look forward to that day. We're going to be able to take off our masks. I think it's going to come sooner than maybe we think. We're going to be able to see each other. And if we use this time to grow together in love and community, then that sight is going to be glorious when we see our faces unveiled for the first time. But in the meantime, we've got to wait in joyful hope. We can't give in to the darkness. We can't give in to a lack of hope. There is so much that God is doing during this time. I'm not usually here in Newmarket at night. I live over in Exeter. And last week I was visiting someone in their home here, and so I was trying to get back home, and the road was closed. They're doing construction on the road to Exeter this week, and so I don't know how to get back home. And so I came back here into downtown Newmarket, and I looked up, and there was the beautiful stained glass window of this church. Mary and Joseph and the child Jesus looking down on the town of Newmarket. And it was a beautiful sight to behold. And then I found my way home. I decided to go through Epping. Actually, first I said, maybe I left the light on. Maybe I should run in inside. But then I realized someone told me, we do it on purpose. We keep that light on a timer as a sign of hope for the whole town. It was a beautiful sight. And to me, it was just a sign of hope to remember, hey, look up and see the face of Jesus looking down on us. He loves us. He is watching over us. Don't give in to the darkness. The light is coming. Lord, let us see your face, and we shall be saved.